cat rarely arrives with urgency. There is no dramatic entrance, no immediate attachment, no visible declaration of loyalty. One day they are simply there, observing the space, measuring distance, deciding where they belong. Many people say their cat just showed up during a strange period of life. Not necessarily during happiness, but during transition, after a move, after loss, during emotional overload. The timing often feels unplanned, yet oddly precise. This video isn't about destiny. It's about patterns, and what tends to shift in a human life once a cat becomes part of it. Cats don't seek control, they seek stability. Cats don't respond to hierarchy the way many animals do. They don't follow out of obligation, and they don't submit to authority simply because it exists. Instead, cats evaluate emotional consistency. A cat watches how a person moves through the environment. Tone of voice, pace of movement, reactions to stress. Over time, they decide whether that presence feels predictable enough to trust. This is why cats often appear selective or aloof. They are not rejecting connection, they are assessing safety. Why cats change how humans move. Living with a cat subtly alters human behavior. People begin to walk more carefully at night. They lower their voice instinctively. They pause before reaching out, waiting for permission rather than assuming access. These adjustments usually happen without conscious intention. No one sits down and decides to become more emotionally regulated. It happens because a cat responds immediately to pressure, unpredictability, or emotional intensity. Cats don't tolerate force. They withdraw from it. Punishment teaches fear, not understanding. Yelling, hitting, or spraying a cat with water doesn't teach rules. It teaches fear. Research on feline behavior consistently shows that punishment-based methods damage trust without addressing the cause of the behavior. From a cat's perspective, punishment feels random. They don't connect your anger to their action, they connect it to you. Over time, this creates hesitation, avoidance, and emotional distance. A fearful cat may appear well-behaved, but they are not calm. They are managing threat. Trust is built through predictability. Cats learn through consistency, not correction. They watch patterns. They notice whether your reactions match your tone. They notice if your presence remains stable even when they make mistakes. Trust forms when nothing bad happens repeatedly, not when something good happens once. This is why cats often bond slowly and deeply. Once safety is established, they don't need constant reassurance. They simply stay. Why cats and certain people find each other. Not every person thrives with a cat, and not every cat thrives with every person. When the match works, it's often because emotional needs align. People who are overwhelmed by noise, demand, or constant emotional input often find comfort in cats. Cats don't require explanation. They don't ask for emotional output. They allow companionship without pressure. In return, cats benefit from calm environments and respectful boundaries. The bond forms not through effort, but through compatibility. Cats teach consent through distance. Cats are clear about consent. They approach when ready, leave when overstimulated, and return when equilibrium is restored. There is no apology, no resentment. Living with a cat forces humans to confront an uncomfortable truth. Affection cannot be taken. It must be offered and accepted. Over time, this changes how people relate, not just to animals but to others. Boundaries become clearer. Rejection feels less personal. Silence becomes less threatening. The power of quiet presence. Cats are masters of stillness. They rest openly, sleep deeply, and disengage when overstimulated. This behavior isn't laziness, it's regulation. Watching a cat rest without guilt or explanation challenges many humans internally. It exposes how often people override their own need for rest, calm, and withdrawal. Cat doesn't justify rest. They simply take it. Emotional awareness without language. Cats are highly sensitive to emotional shifts. They notice changes in posture, muscle tension, breathing patterns, and tone, often more than words themselves. This is why cats may leave when arguments begin or approach when someone is quietly distressed. They are responding to nervous system signals, not stories. Their reactions teach humans to become more aware of their own emotional leakage. Not because the cat explains it, but because the cat reacts honestly. Why cats often bond during hard times. Many people adopt or find cats during emotionally complex periods. This isn't mystical, it's practical. Cats fit into lives that need quiet companionship rather than stimulation. A cat doesn't interrupt grief. They coexist with it. They don't push for positivity. They sit nearby and wait. Routine without pressure. Cats create rhythm without force. Feeding times, morning stretches, evening settling. Small rituals that anchor the day. For people experiencing anxiety, burnout, or emotional disorientation, these routines provide structure without demand. The day moves forward gently, marked by care rather than urgency. This is especially powerful for those who feel overwhelmed by expectations. A cat needs consistency, not perfection. Cats and emotional maturity. Living with a cat tends to increase emotional patience over time. People learn to pause before reacting, to repair rather than dominate, and to let go of control. This is not because cats teach lessons. It's because cats do not cooperate with emotional immaturity. The relationship only works when respect is mutual, and mutual respect requires awareness. Why loss hits differently? When a cat leaves, through death, separation, or change, the absence feels sharp and quiet, not dramatic, but constant. Cats occupy space through routine, presence, and silence. Their absence disrupts the emotional environment more than people expect. The grief isn't exaggerated. It reflects how deeply integrated the cat was into daily emotional regulation. What cats leave behind. After living with a cat, people often notice subtle changes. They become more tolerant of space, more comfortable with silence, less reactive to rejection. These changes don't feel like growth at first. They feel like calm. Cats don't demand transformation. They allow it. You don't need to believe a cat entered your life for a reason. You only need to notice what shifted after they arrived. If you became more patient, more aware, or more respectful of boundaries, that matters. If you learned that connection doesn't require control, that matters too. Cats don't explain why they're here. They just exist, and quietly, something in us adjusts. No meaning required. By the time a cat becomes familiar, something else has already changed. Not in them, in you. The way you enter a room. The way you pause before reacting. The way silence no longer feels like something that needs to be fixed. Cats don't announce their impact. They don't mark milestones or demand recognition. Their influence settles quietly, through repetition, through presence, through the simple act of staying near without expectation. Living with a cat often means learning that connection doesn't require constant interaction. That closeness can exist without touch. That affection, when freely chosen, carries more weight than anything forced or requested. Over time, many people stop trying to control the relationship and begin allowing it. They learn to read subtle signals, to respect distance without interpreting it as rejection, to accept that trust grows best when nothing is being pushed. And maybe that's what lingers the most. Not the routines, not the behaviors, but the shift in how we relate to another living being and eventually to ourselves. A cat doesn't teach these things deliberately. They simply live this way, and if you stay long enough, you adapt. When the video ends, and the house returns to its usual quiet, that presence remains. Not as a lesson, not as meaning, just as a softer way of being. If this reflection felt familiar, you're not alone. Many people recognize these changes only when they pause long enough to notice them. If you'd like to stay with this channel, we'll continue exploring feline behavior the same way, without myths, without dominance, and without noise. Just quiet understanding, and the cats who teach it without trying.